panel discussion where Toastmaster Abhishek will be the moderator and we have wonderful panelists. So talking about Toastmaster Abhishek, he's on his level 5 of dynamic leadership. And talking about Toastmaster Abhishek, he's an management graduate and entrepreneur who loves to travel and explore. So before handing over the floor to Toastmaster Abhishek, may I request his evaluator, Toastmaster 𝗵𝗳𝗲 to highlight.
So Toastmaster for today, Toastmaster Abhishek, he has to apply his skills as a public speaker and leader to facilitate our panel discussion. All the best.
So, may I welcome Toastmaster Abhishek Khadgi for panel discussion on communication at work life. Toastmaster Abhishek Khadgi.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. I don't like the energy though. Good evening, everyone. That is a part of vocal variety. So which comes under the communication. So my name is Toastmaster Abhishek Khadgi. A few years back, I joined as a new member at the Toastmasters. So like it has been said, breaking the barriers, the day I remember when I just came here to speak, my leg was so shaky. But today, after the completion of some projects and level, investing on myself with the help of different leaders, I, along with my entire team, is here to break the barrier once again. So I came here to tell people, not just only tell, to show people, lead by example. And one thing about communication that I learned, that I knew about communication is not just only speaking, but communication is about showing, by leading, by action, and last but not the least, by failing and learning, but not to giving up. So moving forward for today's panel discussion. So everybody says actually panel discussion is so boring. So I have few fellow panelists here, which I invite personally and also by our entire Toastmasters Club. So let me welcome our first panelist tonight. To invite our first panelist, can we have any guest who can be the first panelist tonight?
Toastmaster Euden.
Oh, that's very smart but right answer. So let me welcome Toastmaster Euden, who is a Toastmaster since 2004 at Everest Toastmasters Club, having served Everest Toastmasters as past president, also Charter Excom of Laxmi Toastmasters Club, currently serving as District 41 Area Director and HR professional, currently employed with WaterAid as Head of People. Let me welcome Toastmaster Euden. So second, let me tell you, who is our second panelist tonight. So as I am checking our...
Area director.
Sorry?
He's area director.
He is area director. So I want to call some other person, but okay. Without further ado, let me welcome Toastmaster Dipesh. And talking about Toastmaster Dipesh, let's sit. Talking about Toastmaster Dipesh, Toastmaster Dipesh is currently working at Laxmi Bank as a manager, financial control, area director of Area D4, Division D member, and past president of Laxmi Bank Toastmaster Club. Let me welcome Toastmaster Dipesh. So last but not the least, a special person, a guest for our Toastmaster fraternity. I think we don't need to guess. So we have Mr. Euden Koirala. Mr. Koirala has a dynamic personality of being a TV journalist, a writer, a poet, a lyricist, event moderator, etc. But Mr. Koirala is also a certified NLP practitioner, career and life coach. He has been involved in coaching, counseling, and believe me, I had a list of his introduction. I could not tell more. So let me welcome Toastmaster. So this was the end of one part, the introduction. Now let me tell about what we are going to do next. I would be the moderator for tonight as a panel discussion. So we have a theme of work-life at communication. So sorry, it was communication at work-life. So what I'm going to tell about and talk about is our panelists will be sharing their experience at a communication. We have question and answer session for our guests as well. So at the end of the panel discussion. Without further ado, let me welcome myself and have a seat at the panel discussion. Thank you. So first of all, I would like to welcome you all again to the panel, and today we are very excited to know and learn some experience of your communication. I've been admiring you and been inspired by you from very since when I started the journey of public speaking as a Toastmaster and non-Toastmaster. So starting from our Toastmaster Euden, I would like to ask you about some introduction I may have been missed or something that you know about communication.
Thank you very much for your question. Good evening everyone. Now this topic communication, as simple as it sounds, it is something that is very commonly used everywhere we go, be it in our personal lives and especially at work. These things like miscommunication, wrong communication, perfect communication, these are things that we hear so much, and I'm sure we'll all agree that communication is a two-way street where there is a speaker and a listener, and then it is to do with the speaker communicating in such a manner that the listener is able to understand and things like that. So I won't go into the details of that. However, I would like to again stress on the fact that as easy as communication is and as simple as it sounds, it is a huge challenge. And I will say that the challenge I see in practicality in workplace is because the individuals that are involved, that is the speaker and the listener, they are entirely different individuals that come from different backgrounds, whether it is education background or the community or the way of thinking, the way of working. So that is where I feel communication becomes a bit of a complex topic. That's how I see communication.
Thank you, Toastmaster Euden. Moving forward, now I would like to ask the same question but Toastmaster Dipesh. What is one thing that you feel about communication?
Thank you for the question, Toastmaster. Adding to what Toastmaster Euden said, communication for me, especially in work life, is giving that human touch, because that's what we are losing as a society. Talking about corporate world, we are into modernization, digitization, and different technology, overcoming different mediums of communication. But still, I think that the humanitarian part of communication still lies, and that's where the speaker and listener part and the way the message is delivered in the essence that the speaker has said and in the same message that the listener has to receive. So that humanitarian part is always there. I can give an example. No matter how modern we become, no matter how emails have been a part of our daily communication, we live in a society where an email has to be followed up by a phone call. You first send an email and then call that person to tell that, okay, I've sent you an email. Any email without a phone call that follows is as good as spam. So the humanitarian part is always there, and for me that is the essence that I carry while communicating at my workplace.
Thank you. So moving forward with the same question to our guest, Mr. Euden Koirala. So you are into the media field as well, and how important is you for yourself as a communication in your field as well as in your personal life as well?
Well, good evening everyone. So yes, definitely communication is the only one skill that we always have in our life when we born and then until the death. So Definitely one thing, if I have to talk about communication, and then I have seen in the workplace or even in our personal life, the one big thing that we always miss is clarity. If I don't know what I really want to speak about, or if I really don't know what I really want to tell my team how to do the job, or if I really don't know what do I really expect out of that. Let's take a very simple example in our personal life. If my mom is very busy at the kitchen and then she tells me, go and grab some vegetable. If I can ask her, what vegetable do you really want? That will be the very easiest thing, because I really want to be clear. But I just go to the shop and then I check the vegetables that I feel like something there is not like by my dad, or maybe by my mother, or maybe by somebody at the house, and then I get confused. So we should be very clear about what we really want to deliver in our life. So that is one of the very important thing. And then also talking about how important communication is in the workplace. It is definitely a very biggest thing. I can tell, and I can see everybody will agree with me on this case, because and anything that happens in the workplace, let's say you are going to get promoted. The first thing, you should be able to tell your boss that you are capable of getting the promotion. So that is a channel of communication. If you're not clear enough, why do you really want your pay raise, let's say, or why do you want to get promoted, or even building a good relationship with your co-workers might be easier for you to work in your daily life. So the one thing that I really like to emphasize at this event today is the clarity we really should seek out of whatever we do in our daily life. So that's it from my side.
Thank you. So adding more thing about clarity. So definitely the problem arises at workplace by not having proper communication. So I want to ask our Toastmaster Euden, so have you ever faced any kind of some misclear kind of experience at your work life, and how you have managed? So if you have any idea or any experience regarding this.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I think this miscommunication or unclarity in communication happens a lot at work, because for the reasons where Toastmaster Dipesh also pointed out, it's to do with the human touch that has to be there, and which we tend to miss out when we are at work. One example, very recent example I'd like to give you is, we had a staff who came, and a new joiner who came and said that he was facing a bit of a difficulty because he was seated in a place where there was a bit of a noise. So he went and spoke to the head. And then the head wanted to make him comfortable, so the person came and identified the desk and said, why don't you sit here? And then the administration team went and prepared the place. Now the communication gone wrong there, where I felt as an organization we need to be very open and clear, is who was sitting at that desk, and do we need to owe that person some kind of explanation as to why we would like to shift the person, in terms of what are the things that would favor the person as well as to why the other person is shifting. So I'm not going to the details, but generally what I want to say is having some kind of clarity as to giving reasons, reasoning it out with both parties is something that is very important, and something that is really missed out, especially by the senior management teams, I feel. Because we feel that we are there to make decisions, and we feel that people trust us as in what decision we've made. But we don't realize that everybody is understanding it at their own levels. So that is where everything goes wrong, and people will not come to communicate and tell you that they did not feel good about it, but they will create more miscommunications beyond that room. So open communication and clear communication is something I really feel is important, and something that we need to do every day.
Thank you. So adding about some clarity and some clarity. So I think we don't have that guts to somewhere to ask questions, by the way, in communication. We simply, what we do is, we just, okay, I've understood. Like since in our class, since in our school, we have not taught by the way, but we have not brought up that challenge just to ask questions that no, I didn't understand. Same thing happens in work life as well, but somehow that thing may be taking us one step backward at a time. So at that moment, how, as a communicator, you will be developing your role to overcome such kind of challenge to Toastmaster Dipesh in your banking career as well, or your personal life as well?
That's very important part of communication, because as a corporate, what I think is organizations need to promote giving values to people's ideas and people's mind, because an organization is run by a group of people from different levels, different ranks, and it's not only the top minds that of course they do the most of the strategic decisions, but there are minds. Every individual staff, every personnel is one head for the organization, so every head can think as equal as any other individual, regardless of the level that they do in. So if an organization has a culture to promote that people's idea, power of people and ideas, that's what the term is that we hear. So that has to be there. So my responsibility as a leader inside my own organization would be to encourage people to share their ideas, to ask questions, to clear their confusions. If I do the same with my boss, if I do the same with my team, then they will also be encouraged to do that, to get their ideas clear. So what we can do is have that environment, to create that environment where every idea is valued. Not necessarily all of them will be implemented, of course, but if the organization or if the leader, if the managers listen to their team's ideas and values their questions and respects their conscience as well. So that's where these are the stereotype of being laid back because of not asking a question would be avoided, I think.
Thank you, Toastmaster Dipesh. So now I would like to go with our guest Rajan, Mr. Rajan. So is there any experience on your own personal life where you have missed some opportunity by not asking questions? Somewhere we say, like, by not having proper communication, not that small touch of confidence, we have to compromise many things and miss many opportunities in life. So is there any experience in your field where you have faced some kind of such experience?
Yes, definitely. I do really remember one of the very key things that really, bring me to the front in the area of public speaking. When I was in the US, going to my undergraduate school, and then I joined a public speaking class, and then, being from Nepal and not really good at speaking English, I was like very laid back type of personality, like he said, and was there always for me, and then saying, hey, Mr. Koirala, you can do it, so why don't you go to the front? And then I just started like talking anything that came to my mind, and a lot of people, the professors they were very positive, and then they were very supportive, but about the students, they almost most of the times they kept ignoring us, being like international students. One specific event, when I went in front of the mass and then I started talking about myself, my childhood stories, and then I said a word called nutty. That was a good word in Nepal, but nutty was not considered as a good word in America. And then they started laughing again. So I, happened to know that, people keep on, laugh and people supporting you. You really shouldn't care about what the public says to you. So, like you said, logical questioning is very, very important. And another part I really wanted to focus here about in the area of communication is observation. If you can observe things and then, looking at people's faces and, about their activities in the room, maybe, you can identify a whole lot of things. Let me share you, very brief, let me share you one of my experiences I had. I was working in one of the companies in the it was like 7-story building, and then I was on the 6th floor. Every day, I was climbing. There was a cooperative stuff on the 2nd floor. So that office, there was a security guard, and then he was like always saluting all of the people who were on a suit and tie. And then I thought like this was just for the board of directors. He said, no sir, if you see like anyone with a suit and tie, you should just salute them. That's what he was being told by the management. And then every day, while I was climbing, I started talking to him. And then I started observing things. So one day, you know, I had to go to Nangadi for like 2 or 3 days, and then right after I came back, he was like, you know, so cross, and he said, sir, are you all right? Are you okay? I didn't see you for like a couple of days. Where were you? You know, if we can observe things, if we can build some sort of rapport with people, you know, that is a kind of thing that you really get like a kind of care to you. And then that is where you never know. The network can help you in like several ways. So observation is another thing as well. So logical question stays there. That is a very important part. And that is what I would like to add on.
Thank you. So talking about observation, as working as a professional in field of your career, I would like to ask Toastmaster Euden, what kind of observation you have did in your past career or present career as a HR professional, and how you have solved, you know, some question by observing. Some we can study or we can read the face actually. Somehow where I want to go somewhere but my parents won't allow, so I can say, but somehow they can observe. Same thing might happen in workplace as well. So have you ever observed as being in management level?
Yes, when we base it around communication, your question, I would say when it comes to communication, it is largely to do with body language, and then second largely to do with the language that you use and the tone that you use, and very little to do with the words that you use. So not only as an HR or as a manager, but as colleagues, we all need to be conscious of everybody, especially their body language or the tone that they are using when you're observing if somebody is in what you're saying or somebody is really not disagreeing. Because like when we go back to your question where people don't speak up, this is a culture. We live in a world, our part of the world is where we are brought up by being told not to answer back, right? We don't answer back to our parents, we don't answer back to our elders. But when we come to work, we're told to speak up. Now, we're a bit messed up, I would say, because when we're saying you don't answer back and then again you're told you have to speak up to your line manager, there is a big challenge in the culture that we come from. So that is where, as line managers or as colleagues, we should be very observant of people's body language and the reaction that they are, or the action that they are giving you when you're speaking to them, to get into, you know, whether, how do you want them to understand you, or how would you want to extend further space for communication to create that culture that he's talking about, that feeling in silence. That's how I would observe.
Thank you. So in comparison to other cultures, we have been taught not to say back what you're not doing good from home actually, and work life we have to do under pressure. So same thing, when pressure comes, I feel like bankers know more about pressure and how you balance your work life and personal life at a bank with the communication. So if you have any things to say on this.
So talking about communication and balancing work life, that's two parts: communicating with my bank colleagues and communicating with my wife as well. Because that's how the balance comes. Otherwise, the balance will be gone. So I think being honest to yourself, being honest to what you do is important, and that's where again I have been telling you the humanitarian part, the human touch is essential. Being empathetic, being compassionate to your colleagues, to your team, and communicating in that line, regardless of the company's targets. There are pressures, there are deadlines, but if you become compassionate with your colleagues, understand their problems, share your problems with them as well, then the rapport, as Rajanji is telling, will automatically be built, and that keeps the team together. Of course, few deadlines will be missed, few targets will be lost, but that keeps the team together for the bigger term, and that reciprocates with your personal life as well. You need to be honest with your family, you need to be compassionate, you need to understand their part. They will also be expecting your time, your commitments, and being honest to that, being honest to your own personal, your careers expectation, careers demands. If you can communicate that well with your family and also understand their expectations, it's all about communicating your, being honest with your communications.
Thank you. So balancing is more about expressing and being who you yourself.
Yeah.
Might be the answer. So one question I want to ask, anyone can simply volunteer and give. So what kind of communication you yourself has been practicing in your work life? Somewhere we have to say, like in business or organization, we don't actually say positive or only truth to our teammate somewhere. So because sometimes we might have to talk a little differently. So how that situation critically has been managed at that point, like in communication or telling your teammates and yourself, practicing about expressing yourself at work life, especially anyone can.
Let me, yes, very little, but knowing people, and then it really requires a lot of time, lot of effort, because if you don't know your team, if you don't know who they are, what culture they come from, and then if you don't know what is going on inside their family, if you don't try to talk to them, let's say somebody's mom is not feeling well, let's say, and then she's in the hospital, she has to go back and forth, maybe. And then if you see him or her coming to office in a very upset mood, or maybe not in a working mood, maybe you can say, how is your mom? Knowing them is, and then this really needs a lot of effort. That's why I'm telling you that you should know your people. So, and then with that, like she said, body language is very, very important. You should know if they are in a mood to talk to you or not. A very simple, that is one of the experience I had in my life. I had two colleagues, they were working like super fabulous in my team. One day, one of them came to me and then she said, I really want not to sit with her by my side. I said, why? And I kept asking her 3 or 4 times, she denied. At my 5th attempt, she said, she stinks. Fine, she stinks, okay. So I called another girl in a very separate meeting and I said, what's going on? How are you? And then how is your work going on? She said, it's like amazing. I just completed one of the tasks. Actually, I was thinking of going for a coffee downstairs and then I was about to ask you. So she's completely unknown about the situation. And I went to the room and then I said, okay, let's shuffle our work session today. And then we did. She was very happy. She said like, thank you over a text. The next 2 weeks, they were like separated and I saw them, both of them, hugging each other and then going to the coffee shop again. So if I said, okay, she said that you stink, that could have been a big problem for myself because, they could have like backbeaten about me. So, knowing people and then if you can observe their activities and then, be very cautious and then like he said, being empathetic is very, very important. If you want to keep yourself on their shoes and then, understand the thing, maybe, being in the senior positions, you already have experienced those kind of things. So, if you can feel that and then, take logical decisions with observation and anything we talked in the today's conversation might help. So, that is very, very powerful, knowing your people and then, you have to really, really give a lot of effort to that. So that's what I would like to add on to the conversation. So that's it from my side.
So this word conversation is actually a very used and deep word. So have you faced any kind of feeling like somewhere while working, not feeling good sometimes at a time? So conversation had helped actually to some people. So while leading some team, do you frequently do like conversation with your teammate to know and observe and clear out the things actually, to care about the teammates? Anyone can take this one?
I can take that. Yeah, I think it is very important to have conversations with your team, whether they are reporting to you or not, because, it is important to understand what is going on, like he said. However, the challenge is on having difficult conversations, because sometimes there are conversations where you are going to give bad news or poor feedback. And I would say, not only during those situations, during any conversation, if you are initiating a conversation, for me, the first thing you should do is let the other person speak. How are you? How are you doing? How is work? What's happening? Any challenges you're facing? Anything you want to share with me? Not in this manner like firing somebody, but in very gentle ways, because I feel I have experienced that a lot of issues come up when you know, extend your hand or extend a space to the person to speak and open the conversation.
So actually this thing shared and had helped to clear out some things.
Yes,
In your
a lot.
conversation.
Yes.
So adding to our Toastmaster activities, so how often it had helped you, like being a communicator
As a Toastmasters, and not just only Toastmasters, but the passion on your speaking and improving, how often it had helped you in your working life, like having a good proper communication, let's say. Is there anything that you feel the importance of communication?
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, if I hadn't been a Toastmaster, I must say I wouldn't have been in that position in my organization that I am today now. Because that has helped me to listen. That's what one important part of communication that we always ignore. Listening, we always think communication is speaking only, but listening is that part of communication that I learned from Toastmasters, and that I usually use in my professional life, in my office as well. And that has helped me become again that term, I am using that term compassionate, but that has helped me become compassionate, that has helped me become aware of my colleagues, my team's problems, issues, and their expectations as well. I would share an experience, and at the end, Toastmasters has also helped me become an initiator rather than someone who ignores problems. Instead of becoming a person who ignores the issues, I have become an initiator. I can share an example. A couple of years back, my subordinate was good in her job, and she was expecting a promotion. It was that part of the year when promotion list comes in an organization, and she was expecting a promotion, and I had also agreed with that she needs a promotion, and I had recommended her to be promoted. But unfortunately, the promotion list came without her name. I don't know what the reason would be, but in any other situation, or if I hadn't been a Toastmaster, or if I hadn't been the leader like I am now, I would just ignore the problem and just give the blame, passing the blame to the management, someone who, the HR committee. But I took that initiative, and before she approached me, I called her and told her that she has been doing a good job, but it happens sometimes. I tried to console her, and that I think avoided a break of rapport between her and me. And what happened subsequently was she forgot that day, and she forgot that she hadn't been promoted, and she excelled in her performance even more. And the next year she got promoted, and she has been reporting to a different manager now. But our connection, our relationship has always been a good one. So that's one example of being an initiator, being compassionate, being empathetic to others, that has helped me in my professional life.
So thank you so much. So moving forward to our next session, let's not just only be the communicator of speaking. Let's ask our audience and listen about, is there any question regarding your work life and you have been facing in your work life? So yeah. Yeah, sure. Just
I think in corporate world, in the official working environment, email is one of the most important mode of communication, right? But what I've noticed is, especially new generations, they are very much casual in sending the emails, right? If I ask my junior to send some document to me, he or she just attaching the file, or sometimes even forgets to attach the file and sending the email. There is no address, there is no greetings, there is no conclusion. This is an example, but I think this is very applicable to most of the scenarios. So how do you feel in your personal life? Should we teach our new generations there is an email manner, there is an email attitude, that's how you have to write? So what is your experience? Anyone can take it.
I think try. So yes, there is an email etiquette, and each organization has their own ways of every communication. For example, when I worked with Standard Chartered, we used to call everybody by the name and call G. Then I joined Laxmi Bank, we started calling, there's a culture of calling everybody Dai or Di, okay? And then I joined this organization where you just call people by their names. So email also has an etiquette, but also has a sort of a culture based on each organization. Now, I wouldn't really say that we need to teach people, but we do need to show them, as in when you're doing an induction, when they join the organization, when you're onboarding them, we do need to show them how we normally sign off emails or how we normally address emails. But at the same time, there could be situations where you need to even send them for trainings on communication and email etiquette if they really can't get it. But I think sort of onboarding them in the culture also helps a lot and saves you money of trainings.
Let me also add a little bit of thing, because as far as I'm like going through a lot of psychological processes, in the personal development and also about the professional development, we call this, we are in several generations, like I'm from millennial, and then when we talk about the another generation is Gen Z, and then now we call our kids like from 2010 onwards. They are called alpha generation people, and then we do have like bunch of other characteristics that denotes their attitudes. So probably I have seen most of the, I mean not most, but like in like many of the developed nations, they start like instant messaging, because that is what makes happy to those people like you're talking about. The young people are like happy in instant messaging, and then in like few of the organizations I work with, they're also using like, let's say, Hangout, even WhatsApp and stuff. If that works, that could be one of the solutions. If not, we really want to have that email etiquette, like she said, we can go for that as well. And now, when they're talking about some of the, advanced technological approaches, now, if you really want to write a leave message to the HR manager, you can just go to, I forgot the name, but there is chatbot. Not chatbot, but there is something. GPT something, chat GPT or something is already coming up, means, the AI, it's more powerful than AI. So if we can like, tell them how to use that technology and then be more proactive, maybe that could be another solution too. Because if we really can't understand what they like and what their characteristic is, and if we really want them to do the way we want them to do, maybe there may be some kind of communication crisis may happen. So it's again about like knowing what sort of people you are dealing with. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I run an IT company, and client have, they have a knowledge of, sending the rocket. They have that lot of knowledge, but their budget is little, and they want a good product. They compare it with Facebook and all, but we can't make that because it requires a big, huge team, right? And they give a specific requirement that we make, and the requirement is exact as per them. But when we deliver, they don't take it, easily. So how can we educate them on that part, on product or service that they are asked?
I would like to try again, but that's a more of technical problem. But what I think, taking this on a communication perspective is, I think the understanding of the basics, what they want and what you are delivering has to be because of their requirement. You need to, as the designer needs to understand the requirement well, and if your product matches their requirement, I think it's only about clarifying the parts out, clarifying the process out. I think that communication.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think it is a large part of communication, and it is to do with your convincing skills, your sales and marketing skills. So how would you convince the person? So you practice more of arguments at home, and when you win, you become a little bit
I think in the technology field and the software sales, or maybe some sort of technological products, I think it's not a one day. You're not like buying cookies from the Vatvatini or somewhere. So it's like you're selling it to one specific person, like she said, and then I totally agree with her. You should know who he or she is, and then you might want to study about him on LinkedIn, on like some other profiles, what he really loves, and then you really can build a good rapport, and then have like some lunch meeting, or maybe you have to really invest on that, and then make them realize that your product is valuable to them. So maybe if you really, like I said in my earlier conversation, if you put extra effort and then understand them, and I heard that from Toastmaster itself, and then also in the NLP techniques, we call that sandwich method of that. If you say good about him, and then put some kind of budget thing inside, and then say you are like somebody awesome, I made today, something like that, just to make them happy, and then influence to get that business. I think that could be one of the ways. I'm not saying that will perfectly fit your question, but that could be one of the ways.
Thank you. So last question we are taking.
Thank you. So I may miss the conversation regarding this, right? So due to the pandemic or this, we are very much used to it, the working from remote or working from home. At this situation, I have faced a kind of problem like trust between the team member, right? So at that time, how can we convince, or how can we communicate with our team so that they feel more engaged within the co-work space or something like this? Any suggestion or?
Okay, during the pandemic, how I practice is something I can tell you, but I might not be able to give you the right answer. So that was the toughest time. We are not getting paid. Maybe few hours, and then paying hourly would be very few money. But there were no such spaces where they could like spend money as well. So that could be some kind of good thing for them. But what I did was I really wanted them to. I said like, okay, this is the list of movies. Now you may want to watch, and then we'll just discuss on some of the learnings you got. So we did pay, and then I was talking about sales. So I had bunch of sales movies, and then they would like talk about that. On top of that, they were also, oh yes, we could have done this in our daily life as well, or in our professional life as well. So I was just simply trying to engage them, and then try to make them learn things in like difficult situations. Watching movie could be like getting off the stress one, and then learning things, and then they were like trying to implement that learning to their like professional life. So that is what I tried at least. And then even I didn't pay them for like I think a month or so, and then they were happy with me. They were like really we are happy that we are working under you. So maybe just to engage them in like some other ways as well. Maybe that's the only thing I could do, and then I was successful on that. So maybe that would help you. I'm not sure if I answer you, but if any additional things from them, definitely.
We've run out of time.
Yeah.
So as it is said, time and tides wait for none. So we have a networking session back then. So if you have any question, please write it down on your mind, not in a notebook. If it's possible, please write on your notebook and please ask questions, because asking question is what communication really we are trying to make. At the end, I would love to end that there is a saying, powerful people comes from powerful places. It's a dialogue from KGF. Actually, powerful people makes the place powerful. And thank you so much for making this place powerful with your presence. And definitely we'll meet in the networking session. Thank you so much. Thank you.